Hi, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Doodle Therapy. It's great to see you all and to be back here for our second day with our special guest, illustrator and writer and educator, Daniel Fishel. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. It's great to see everyone in the chat. If you are joining us live, please feel free to say hi, introduce yourself. We are a friendly bunch here. Share your name, where you're joining us from, and we always have a random question of the day. So today our random question is, what is your favorite go-to summer food right now? So that could be anything from a popsicle or, some kind of special summer snack, or, a lot of us in the US are going to be celebrating the 4th of July for barbecuing. So maybe corn on the cob. Just curious to know what your favorite summer food is right now. And Daniel and I will be sharing that about ourselves as well. Welcome in to Sam, our awesome moderator, to Jessica. Welcome, Jessica. Chris, Jeffrey, Gus, Pixel Visuals. It's great to see you all here. And ready for some more doodling today. So if you're new to the Doodle Therapy stream, the way this works is we are on Adobe Live every other week, and we always bring on a special guest. We explore a different illustration-related topic together. We try to doodle and learn something new about drawing. So this week, we are chatting with Daniel about self-promotion, how to get started, how to think about your promotional perspective and approach, and things that have just worked for both of us, which we'll get to in a second. So another part of Doodle Therapy is we also have a drawing prompt that goes along with the topic. So this week, since we're talking about self-promotion, our prompt is to create a promotional postcard that you can then send out to art directors, potential collaborators, clients. That is, a great way to promote yourself. So if you'd like to draw along, and everyone is invited, regardless of your skill level, age, experience, you can grab the template in the description below, get set up in Photoshop or Illustrator or your preferred, drawing setup. And, meanwhile, we will introduce ourselves a little bit. So Daniel, I've got some of your work here up on the screen, just like yesterday. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're joining us from, your favorite summer food?
Yeah. Again, my name is Daniel Fishel. I live in New York City, specifically in the borough of Queens. I mostly do magazine and newspaper illustrations, but I also do book covers, advertisements, little animations, both GIFs and short like kind of animations, as well as I make my own products here and there as like a side project of my own.
Cool.
So yeah. So I have two specific favorite things that if I'm really feeling in the summer mood, I kind of go for. One is a Choco Taco. If you've never had a Choco Taco, it's basically like a waffle cone in the shape of a taco shell layered with ice cream and chocolate with like a chocolate coating over the top. It's delicious to get from a corner store, from a grocery store, bodega, wherever you're at. It's incredible. Another thing that I absolutely love, another thing that I absolutely love, when I lived in Philadelphia, we called it water ice, but everywhere else, I mean, it sounds like it doesn't sound right, but everywhere else they call it Italian ice. And basically it's just crushed up ice with some delicious syrup on top just to give it some flavoring.
Yum. Those are, I've never had either of those, but they sound delicious. And I'm kind of like, why haven't I had a Choco Taco? This seems like the obvious next step for anyone who likes ice cream and chocolate and waffles.
So I implore you after the stream to just go into a grocery store and start being like, where can I get a Choco Taco?
Yeah, I've never seen that on the West Coast, but it's possible that SF Bay Area, the temperatures are much more moderate, so maybe there's less of a need for snacks that cool you down. But I will see. I will investigate. And also, to your point about how you create products for your store, like we've got your Pizza Cat shirt up in the corner there that I think is delightful, and also another New York related piece of iconography from the city. So I want to say welcome into everyone. Jessica T says their snack is watermelon. Yummy. I love watermelon. Can't go wrong. Noon Duong says cotton candy grapes. Awesome. I didn't know that those were back in season, so thanks for the heads up. Jeffrey Lynn says they're going to eat a huge plate of barbecue ribs and go to Austin. Yum. And welcome in to Victoria Black, who says hi to Daniel. So just to introduce myself, I am an illustrator and a muralist based in the SF Bay Area. I've got some of my work up here. I'm your host for the Doodle Therapy stream. And my go-to summer snack right now is, in Chinese, it's called a zongzi. But the closest American translation would be sticky rice wrapped in lotus leaves or some kind of leaf. It's delicious. It's usually infused with chicken or mushroom. You can come with a sweet version like red bean as well. It is my go-to. I will literally eat a little packet of sticky rice every day and then immediately fall asleep because of food coma. So great. We're going to transition over here to our drawing stream. So let's see. Sorry about that, everyone. Oops. Actually, sorry. It looks like I've got a little bit of a technical issue here. So Daniel, do you mind telling us a little bit about, your promotional approach and maybe kind of recap what we talked about yesterday?
Yeah, sure. The recap from yesterday is we focused a lot on passive approaches to promotion. So specifically, we focused on how work can get you more work. So if you do an assignment, you do a project, other people can see it and other people reach out to you to get that. We also talked about getting written up on blogs and how if you reach out to places, they'll write about you. Sometimes, if you just existing on the internet, people will find you and write about you on the internet. And
it's like planting seeds.
Yeah. And just the general SEO of just existing on the internet, it just will I guess like an old 90s term to kind of put it is if you build it, they will come kind of effect. So yeah, that's what we mostly talked about. We started to dive into indirect ways of getting work a little bit, such as existing on social media. And that's where we kind of left it off a little bit.
I would say that for anyone who's watching who might be maybe newer to illustration or unsure of how to get started, I would say that one of the most important things is just to put yourself out there and just get into that mindset of it's okay to share your work. People want to see it. The internet is it can be a scary place, but the way that I've approached it is sometimes I'll just put my work out there and it'll boomerang back to me 3 years later in the form of an opportunity. Someone will have seen it and then, I get a cool job, cool project from that. So I would say just start now if it's something that you are serious about and want to, start building. There's no better time than the present. And people like seeing your work. People want to support you.
It's never too late for now.
It's never too late for now. And I would always put off sharing my work on social media. I would always be really sensitive about it because I had like, I don't know, 100 followers or something. So I'd be like, I'm too far behind. Like I'm never going to reach my peers who have, I don't know, 100K followers and get like thousands of likes. I'm getting like 10 likes, you know? But the thing that I realized about social media is I've started to just do it more for me as like a time capsule for something that I can look back on in the future. I do actually like looking back on my Instagram sometimes and being like, oh yeah, I remember when I, you know, wrote about that caption or, you know, whatever. So, yeah, I think it's just, you know, why not get started? And you never know, you might be surprised with the cool collaborations or opportunities that come about from it.
Exactly. Yeah, and like whatever approach you want to take to social media is totally up to you. I mean, I take a much more macro, like I mentioned last week, I take a much more macro approach to posting on Instagram and on Twitter about my work, where I am mostly just focusing on the projects that I work on versus, you know, basically, what's it called? Like focusing on like having a bunch of sketches that I also post kind of in the process. I think that some people are really good at sharing like really beautiful sketches, and they have like characters that they develop that kind of interact with one another, and it's really cool to see that as well. But I just never really thought of kind of developing my work in that kind of way. I have friends that, you know, also create comics, so they can basically take like panels from their comics and then kind of make that into like an Instagram post. And, you know, they go and they make 2 or 3 or 4 kind of comics, and then that then translates into like 200 different possibilities of like posts, and then they can like actually like organically post like content for like a year if they wanted to, you know, on top of their actual project posts that they actually do as well.
Yeah. So Daniel, I'm not sure if you're doing something on your Photoshop right now, but it looks like it's not moving for us. Is that the case for you?
It's zooming in. Oh wait, no, it looks like it started to color in, but it's not doing it anymore. So maybe what I have to do is maybe do what I did last week, which is stop sharing and then reshare again.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we'll scoot over here and I'll explain our prompt for the day. So our prompt, as per the theme of creating a promotional postcard, is to create a card that you can send out to art directors. And like Daniel and I explained yesterday, sending out a postcard is a really, you know, tangible and like solid approach to taking your first step when it comes to promoting yourself with art directors in the editorial space. You know, you could send it to some advertising agencies, even some publishers will accept them too. And I think it's like a very, like it's a useful tool to be able to utilize because, for some people, for example, if you're starting out, sometimes you don't necessarily have access to those contacts or clients, but anyone can look up the submissions address and the art director information for your favorite publications, magazines, etc., and send a postcard in. So it's something that I think is a really accessible promotional tool that like kind of equalizes a little bit for beginners. For example, if you're starting out, you might not have like a bazillion art directors following you on social media. So it's a cool tool to utilize. So I've got a template. I've got a template here in the description, which you can reference, download, and use. And that's what Daniel and I will be drawing off of today. Let's see. So Daniel, it looks like you started screen sharing, but we're not able to see your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think what we might have to do is perhaps have you rejoin. Would that be
Okay.
all right?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do that. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties, guys. We had it all lined up right before we joined, and it's so funny that this sort of thing happens. But in the meantime, I'll be here chatting and happy to answer questions if you like. Eliza asks if we could recommend a comic to look up as an example. One comic artist whose work I really like is named Dami Lee, Dami Lee. She posts a lot of her comics, and it's really cool to see, just like her progression and the story that her character goes on over the course of the comics. And I think one nice thing about that is, I think like perhaps with that format, you can produce a lot more content that people are more aware of and follow because there's a continuous character that goes along. Great. Now we're back with Daniel, I believe. So, sorry about that all. Yeah. So, Daniel, do you mind sharing a little bit about what you're drawing, what you're thinking about in terms of this postcard?
Yeah, sure. Let me zoom out a second. So what I have here, so this is my general sketch here. Let me then kind of do it. This is based off of a New York Times piece that I worked on, but this is one of the unused sketches for the client that I worked on. So I liked it enough that I want to kind of really develop it and see how I like it before I kind of turn it into an actual postcard. So, cool. Today I'm just kind of having fun drawing this and see how it looks, and before I decide to take it to print. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. What is the message behind your piece what's the concept behind it?
Oh yeah.
For those who didn't see your sketch from yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. So the prompt is that, it's really apt to talk about traveling during COVID, and especially with things still being a little hairy, just kind of making a piece that kind of discusses traveling during COVID. So I wanted to really work out this piece and see how I feel about it now that, I have the time to kind of make something during the stream and have some fun,
Yeah, totally.
I love going back and taking a look at my sketches and seeing some things that I loved and that I wish I could, take a little bit of time to put into it. And, I'm getting that opportunity kind of being here to do that. So.
Yeah. I'm curious if you've been working as an independent illustrator for many years now. And when we were talking in the pre-stream, staging, you explained that you did a lot of COVID related illustration projects, for editorial this past year. I'm curious if you have intentionally tried to brand yourself as a specific type of illustrator that art directors know to call you for. If they're like, we got to do a portrait of a New Yorker, it's Daniel's our guy because he's from the city and good at portraits. Yeah.
No, I think that most of my work is basically about the tension between the figure and themselves, or the tension between them and other people, or just a general tension of things existing in the world. And that's really what everyone kind of is drawn to. I used to joke when I started off as an illustrator that I draw a lot of hipsters doing things, but really the core of it is I just kind of I draw a lot of figurative illustrations, and that's just what it is. I think my screen froze again, by the way.
Oh yeah. That's so weird. Let's see. Yeah, sorry about that. Maybe you'll just have to reshare the screen and I'll transition over here.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is close all the other Zoom and non-Zoom and Photoshop related windows on your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, while we're setting that up, I'll explain my piece. So I want to move more into the children's literature, children's publishing markets, which if you've watched the stream before, you probably know that I've been interested in this for a while, all the way back from when we had Anusha Sayed on, with whom we did an actual children's book illustration segment on. So I wanted to create a more fun and just like light, but also very intriguing and detailed scene. I received some really helpful feedback from children's book agents recently that my work should have a little bit more character development in there, which I can totally see because a lot of my illustration work has been for like tech companies and murals in the past where I haven't really had to flesh out like character details as much. So, and also that I need to have more children in my portfolio to, be for a children's book market. So I wanted to draw this scene of this girl interacting with a pink tiger who is one of my favorite characters to draw. And then I was thinking of having like the tiger have, plants or something growing on top of it. So it's kind of a little bit more, imaginative and, just a little bit surreal. And they're in this like forest. And I also had ideas of this character who's currently, sketched in and she's reading a book. But another idea I had was like of the character maybe sneaking up on the tiger over here and, just kind of surprising it, or like watering the plants that are growing on the tiger. Just something a little bit interesting and weird. So welcome into everyone who just recently joined. To answer your question, Matthias, Doodle Therapy is a bi-weekly show here on Adobe Live where our goal is to draw together, learn about something new with a special guest, and we talk about a different illustration related topic. Let's see, Daniel, I think we might have to have you rejoin again because it looks like it's frozen. Sorry for the weird technical difficulties, everyone. I hope it's not related to the heat.
I hope not either. Let me reshare one more time my screen, so maybe that'll work.
Oh, that works. Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. Cool.
Yep, there it is. Cool.
So what are you going to be focusing on drawing today?
Well, in the sketch, I had two suitcases, and I also had some like masks kind of hanging on it. And I'm going to also draw some kind of decorative something in the background, like on like a wallpaper of some kind. So I want to explore color a bit. I just kind of threw some general colors down that I'm kind of attracted to. So, basically I spend, like an hour to like 3 hours on an illustration. And I usually spend about like an hour basically recoloring the entire thing. Just because, I just need to like make sure everything looks good before I'm all set.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I spend way too much time on each piece, and that's also one reason why I don't post as much to like social media, which was as per our earlier conversation, is just because each thing just takes me a long time, and I'm honestly like happy with that. Like I don't really feel the pressure to speed up my process or do something that's not at the level of detail that I want. Stephanie Lau says that they like the texture on your suitcase. And to Stephanie and Victoria, who are saying that they like the music, thanks. It's from a Japanese band called Lullatone, whose music I really, really love. I'm curious, Daniel, when you think about your career, do you sometimes think about like wanting to try a new industry? Like, have you like recently had any desires to like branch into new types of projects? And if so, like what types of directions are you eyeing?
I really want to figure out a way to get more into publishing. I feel like lately I've been doing a lot more animation work than I have in ever, really. So I feel
cool.
I'm scratching that itch a little bit, which has been fun. And also, I did my first project with Target recently too, as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was able to like have like a, one big client that I've always wanted to work with kind of knocked out. So I feel like I'm starting to do that. And I think it just took like, 12 years of working as an illustrator before I started to really get some of the bigger, juicier clients that, we all dream about.
Juicy clients.
When we come out of college.
Yeah. I'm curious, like when a big juicy client, like a dream client, like Target or other, New York Times or, other brands that you've worked with reach out to you. Do you ever ask the art director how they found out about your work, and what are some like answers that you've gotten?
It's kind of all over the place. Sometimes a client will say they've held on to one of my postcards for 3 years before they found the perfect project for me. So, sending postcards out is really important because you never know who's holding on to the right one. Some people hire me right away after I send them an email newsletter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, sometimes I have a piece for someone in one place and someone sees it and then they find me and they look me up and hire me.
Cool. Right. Like it's a snowball effect. Like they saw the other project that led to another project.
Yeah. Like, I had a piece in the New York Times and it led to like a project that I worked on with Apple. And I did a piece for like a university magazine, and like I then got hired by 2 other university magazines to like do stuff for. It's just all over the place of where work kind of comes from in that way. But it just kind of is like everywhere from like all the approaches that I kind of take.
Yeah.
Both passive, indirect, and also direct ways of doing it. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, for those who are watching, if there are interesting ways that you have also gotten connected to like a dream client or dream opportunity as well. I think for me, because I do like to ask people, especially when a big client comes up and is like, we want you to do a mural or, project with us. The top answers that I've gotten are, number one is like word of mouth or seeing other projects that I've done, like the sort of like passive, latent, putting yourself out there and then that information just gets disseminated. So word of mouth or like seeing other projects out there. Number 2 is social media. So either Instagram or Pinterest, oddly enough. And I think that's for that, like things like making sure that you're searchable, like using, I like to use a lot of hashtags. I mean, like, 5 or 6 per post so that, it's easy to find. And also like SEO has been really helpful there. And then I would say the third way has been they just have been following me in some capacity for a while. And then they like just got the right project for which I was like the illustrator that they wanted to work with. So like the long game on social media. Those would be the top 3. In terms of like editorial projects, I haven't done too much editorial. I've only done like 3 or 4 different magazines, but they've all been like pretty high visibility, like covers or section covers. Mm-hmm. So the way that I got those was actually by sending in postcards like this one. And then on the back, I've got a little section to write the address. I actually designed this one with Daniel's help like 5 years ago. And this second postcard. And I've only sent out these two postcards in the past. So you can see that like it does beget more projects, just like maybe in the long term and like not instantly. Victoria says that it's wild that we're talking and drawing at the same time. Yeah, I find after doing this, it's kind of therapeutic actually. Like, hence the name Doodle Therapy, but it's kind of like I'm just stream of conscious working on these curves and chatting out loud.
It's like we're back in art school.
Oh, really? I never went to art school. So if this is like art school, then I'm happy. I feel like I would really like the concept of art school. Like I would love to go to a school where we just like draw and make stuff and like get help on it and learn. But I've talked to a lot of people who've gone to art school who didn't have a very good experience. So in that sense, I don't think I would like it. But I think I would like a summer camp version of art school, like a maybe like a condensed and like lighthearted version.
I really think that like a big upside to being like a professor is that I get to be the change that I want to see.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, Daniel.
Yeah. So now that I have the opportunity to just kind of go into, I teach at two major art schools, and I teach at a technical school that has a really good program that for designers. So I feel like I'm giving students who don't have a lot like a big opportunity by teaching them. So
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like teaching them all the things and all the things that they need to know before they graduate, so they don't feel very overwhelmed about a lot of different aspects to post-grad life. So
if you were to sum up, we've covered this in various forms over our last 2 days, but if you were to give advice to one of your students, like a newbie, maybe they're like a college senior, they haven't had too much experience, maybe a little bit in their portfolio, and they came to you and they were like, Professor Daniel, I'm about to graduate. Like, what are the top 4 or 5 things I should do to set myself up to promote myself and get my work out there?
Yeah, I would say you should.
Do they call you Professor Daniel? Or by the way?
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. So when I teach at City Tech in Brooklyn, and they call me Professor. Like I feel like no one knows my name. They just call me Professor.
Really?
Yeah, and I find that kind of charming. And then
that's very sweet, I think.
I teach at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia as well. And I also teach at College for the Creative Studies over Zoom. They're based in Detroit, Michigan. And they call me by my first name. So it's a little different.
I see.
But yeah, so it's different. But anyway, what I would say to anyone who is struggling and they're looking to promote themselves, the top line things I would say is, first, they need to have a website.
Okay.
For sure. That's like home base to direct anyone to your portfolio. Update it once every 2 months. Just to kind of keep it fresh and funky.
Question about the website.
Yes.
As someone who has been updating her portfolio, is there such a thing as having too many things in your portfolio? Like, even if you've been editing it out, and only posting your best work, like at some point, like 5 years in or 10 years in, you're going to have like a ton of stuff. So should you, if you feel like all those things still do kind of represent you. Should you take out the stuff that was older, or does it hurt? Does it not hurt?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What I would say is that I feel like once a year you should, and I do this on the first week of the new year, I go through my portfolio and I say, what are some images that I'm not feeling as attached to? And what are some things that I would feel okay not having? I also have a separate portion on my website called Archive. My buddy Pete Ryan has this on his website. It's not an original idea at all. And I think also John Krause, another illustrator out of Philly, also has this on his too. And basically what it is that I have my portfolio, and that is the main thing that most people see. And then I have a bunch of work in my archive where basically I'm just like, I love these pieces a lot. They just don't necessarily fit the entire structure of what I'm trying to achieve. Like saying the kind of work that I really want. So, but I love them enough to still have them on my site, but on a separate thing that kind of makes sense.
Okay.
So
have a website. That's number one.
Have a website. Choose the social media that you feel you would use and utilize. For instance, you don't have to do everything. Like, for instance, you don't have to do TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and every single thing out there. Just choose the things that you're comfortable with, or even start with one. Like Instagram seems pretty logical as a second place. And then just
TikTok,
post on there.
My God.
There's a couple of artists on there that are really doing really doing well. And it's not just young people on it too. It's just, there's a lot of people like John Stitch, this illustrator out of Oakland, actually. He does these amazing paintings, and he like paints while, on there, and it's really, really cool.
Cool.
Highly recommend checking him out. So let me see here. I'm do my background painting now a little bit. So anyway, so choose the social media you want to post on, and choose your own path in terms of how you want to promote on it. So for instance, as I mentioned, I'm more of a macro poster where I mostly post projects. I don't post a lot of things outside of that. If you want to be someone who posts both macro and micro posts, meaning you post sketches, you kind of post a little bit more of like your day-to-day kind of like life stuff on top of what you want to do. Like you should do that and make it, make it a part of your brand as an illustrator that you want to put out there. And then that will, bring people in and they'll know you for that. So if you want to be someone that makes videos on your Instagram on top of your work to do demos on how to use Procreate or Adobe Fresco or After Effects or something like that, you can actually do that. And people will seek you out for that stuff and not just your illustration work. So you become more than someone who just makes cool things. You also become a destination for people to seek you out for different things. So, thinking about the way you kind of put things out there in that way is really important. So that's number two. Number three, create a strategy for direct and indirect promotion. So for instance, if you are someone who does business to business kind of work, meaning you work with like newspapers, magazines, book publishers, advertising agencies and such, spending the time to do the research of, what companies actually work really well with you and developing a strategy to send them, physical mail 2 to 3 times a year, finding emails and cold emailing people, once every, 2 or 3 months, with new work on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday of the week. And which I feel like is like the best days of the week. And also from a Twitter poll I did, it seems like that is also the best day of the week to send people things via email. And once you kind of develop that, use Google Calendar or whatever kind of calendar app or a physical kind of calendar to basically like develop that strategy out and, create a system of like when you're actually going to, do things, print things, send things out. So from the research of finding out where, who these art directors and art buyers and editors are, from a combination of seeing who everyone's mentioning that they worked with on Instagram to LinkedIn to just, finding articles where people have written about, art directors in general and adding them to your list of people that you want to work with. So, all that. And then lastly, I think the last piece of advice I would give someone that is trying to do more, promotion and they're just kind of getting themselves out there is to always kind of remember that they got into art because they had a lot of fun and that they love doing that. And if they ever feel like they're making artwork and they're not having fun, or it kind of isn't feeling like exactly what they want to do, they should kind of like step back and reassess, like, what are some things that I'm doing that I don't like? And what are some things that I can do to change that, to bring it back to being artwork that I kind of enjoy making and I want to kind of put out there into the world, so that, you wake up every day and you're not saying, well, at least I'm drawing, right? That should be fine. No, like, you should, like, really figure out for yourself, like, all right, well, like, I like this and this and that, but, what are some things I can do to make it much more enjoyable and make it so much that I'm not like just drawing because, it's a living,
Yeah. So. And that's one of my, like, I think core messages that I want to just get across with this Doodle Therapy stream is, like, most of us, we got into illustration and drawing because we just like to draw. Like, we just enjoy it. And I think for a lot of us, at some point, when you start to do it more professionally, like, you can encounter points where in your journey where it becomes less fun. Like, I think I'm actually a little bit in that mode right now because I'm, like, stressed about, projects and deadlines and stuff. And so the whole point of this Doodle Therapy stream is to just have a time where you're just drawing for fun and you're not trying to be self-conscious or drawing it for other people. It's just for yourself and what you want. And we can all take like an hour or so to just like doodle and have fun and have it be like untouched by other pressures or requirements. So yeah, that's kind of one of my points. So thanks for reiterating that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool. So to recap, I'm going to restate the 5 things that you would recommend for any student who would come up to you and ask you, like, how do I get started with promoting myself? So number 1 is have a website. You just got to put your stuff out there. And I think it's actually pretty important to have a website separate from your social media, because social media is great for growing your audience, but you don't own your audience or platform. For example, like Facebook or Instagram, they could change the way that their algorithm works completely, and your work could be seen by fewer people if they just decide to change the way that like photo posts are shared or whatever. But you do own your website and you do own your audience. Like if you make a newsletter or something, like those are people who that's like a direct tie to you. So I think it's really important to own your own website and build your SEO there. The second one is, I think it was share on social media. Was that?
Yeah.
I remember the points, just not the order.
Yeah. Just decide what social media you want to do and you feel comfortable posting on frequently, and the strategy of which you want to choose to post on there.
Yeah, totally. The third one was, oh man, I forgot, what was the third one? I feel like I'm confusing the points. I had a brain fart. Maybe okay. you can recap again for us what the third one was.
No, because I forget too. We'll just we'll let anyone who like watches the rebroadcast just kind of like take it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I know the points, just not in the order that you stated. So, for example, the fifth point was make sure to have fun, and make sure that if it's not fun or something that you become to dread, to try to change something about the situation that you're in. Yeah, I think one of them was reaching out to other people, and like seeing, you know, the art directors that other illustrators might tag in their posts or are producing work that you're interested in that might want to collaborate with. And yeah. So yeah, we have about 10 minutes left in our stream. Stephanie Lau wants to know if you're drawing coronaviruses.
I am. Yeah, that's the little pattern I have in the background.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy looking.
What is your idea with the coronavirus? Is it like people are traveling and going on vacation, like regardless of the fact that there's previously coronaviruses in the background?
Yeah, I think that's really it, and how like it's still something that is in the background, regardless of like whether or not we're like trying to travel or, you know, however, because I think people just want to get back to normal. And I think with the country at this point, July 1st, 2021, there's like 50% of the country is at least vaccinated, and 60% has at least vaccinated plus one or have one dose. So
I see.
I think people are just in general like making plans and just starting to kind of get back into it.
Yeah.
So what I have left to do in this piece is I'm going to draw a baseboard on the bottom of the floor, and then I have to draw a mask, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get that in the last 10 minutes. The baseboard for sure, but everything else. But I will finish it up and I'll post it online. And so yeah, you can share it then on different things.
Yeah. So if you are watching and you would like to see what the final for Daniel ends up being, you can follow him at O_Fishel on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also, if you end up creating your own promotional postcard and drawing along, feel free to share it as well. And you can tag me at by Alice Lee on Instagram, Twitter, Behance. I always love to see people's doodles that they create. For me, I probably won't post this finished piece for a while. I actually feel like I made a lot of progress during the stream, which is amazing because I tend to be very slow with self-initiated kind of work for some reason. Yeah. So this one, I finished drawing the tiger, and now I'm going to draw the character. I think that it's kind of hard because I like definitely put off the hardest part, which is the character, because that's kind of like the, lens through which you're seeing the story unfolding. So I'm trying to decide if I want the girl to be pleasantly reading or, interacting with the tiger in some way, maybe like scaring the tiger.
I don't know, maybe it's like, hugging it, or it's coming across it and it's surprised, or I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you can draw that and have your character emote in a pleasant or a surprising way, or it's kind of like slowly kind of trying to address it or sneak by. There's a lot of fun things you can do with this where you have it. It looks really great.
Thanks. Oops.
All right. Let's start to sketch out this mask. The things
Victoria.
We have Victoria. What's Victoria's question?
Victoria Black's question is, are you guys working on Cintiqs? So yes, I'm working on a 13-inch Cintiq, which is my portable travel Cintiq that I also keep, ready for Doodle Therapy. And then Daniel, could you share what you're working with?
Yeah, I'm working on a 22-inch Cintiq right now. So it's a big boy. To keep it at home, plug it into my laptop, and then when I travel, and if I have to work, I have an iPad 7 that I can work on, but I don't like to work on it. It's not the best thing to work on for myself, but maybe I'll trade in my 7 for an iPad Pro at some point. But for now, I'm totally satisfied with having my Cintiq here and working from home.
Victoria says fancy.
Yeah, I know. We're so fancy. So quickly, I wanted to press on, because we are working on postcards. So there are basically there's 3 ways to do direct promotion. Sending postcards to art directors and art buyers and editors. Sending cold emails to art directors, art buyers, and editors. And the third way is doing in-person portfolio reviews or going to illustration events that happen where there potentially is an art director, art buyer, and editor to meet and hang out with. So this could be at conferences, the Society of Illustrators in New York, the American Illustration Party that happens in New York. I know the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators has conferences. SBCWI. Yeah. Yes. There's also ones that are for, there's comic book conventions, and there's also ones directed to fantasy art. There's all sorts of type of ones that aren't just in New York and LA. They exist all over. You just got to do a little bit of research and find out where they are. When it comes to doing portfolio reviews, I feel like probably next year, people will be more open to doing portfolio reviews once offices are opened up and, people are feeling a little bit more relaxed about having meetings. But I think that that's something that people can do. And they put a bunch of art on an iPad or a tablet of some kind and visit people. And then again, the indirect ways of promoting is on social media and, posting things online and, and then that, just having that just being available for everyone to kind of see and, makes it that much more accessible for everyone to kind of see and share and talk about. So,
yeah, totally. Thanks for sharing all of that.
I wanted to talk about all that real quick because we're coming up close to the end here.
We are. We've got about 3 more minutes left. So that's 3 more minutes to ask any questions if anyone has any. Someone asked a question yesterday about Lizette, I think, asked a question about if we have a separate Instagram for our work. And just to answer that in a minute, I don't, because I just feel like it's way too much work for me. For example, I could have made a separate Instagram to promote Doodle Therapy. So it's every time we were about to go live, I could post on that account. But I just think it's too much work. And then I don't want to bifurcate my audience, if that makes sense.
I personally have a separate Instagram that is private for
me too.
And my close friends, so that I can post memes, I can post things that are my opinion, that are a little bit more opinionated, that people probably, if they follow me on Twitter, they already know where I'm at. And all those things. That I also because I'm that kind of person, I also have a separate account for my motorcycle content, and I also have one separate for my cat. My cat has their own Instagram, avocado_the cat, if you're wondering. And I also have one that's just for like food that I enjoy.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm completely very much a compartmentalizing kind of person where everything's in boxes. I like to put them in their own box.
Love it. Well, if folks want to follow your various Instagrams, they should check out your main illustration IG, and maybe they could find the other ones from @O_Fishel. And I'm at by Alice Lee as well on IG and Twitter. And it's been great to, have spent the last 2 days chatting with you, Daniel. Thanks so much for always sharing, all of your wisdom, all the way from our mentorship program together like 5 years ago to now. Thanks for encouraging me back then. And thanks for encouraging so many viewers and of your students as well. And if you guys want to check out more of Daniel's work, Sam has very helpfully shared it in the chat, o-fishel.com. And we will be back not in 2 weeks, but in a full month later. And we will be back with another mentor of mine, who I will reveal closer to the date. So until then, have a great long weekend for everyone in the States, and have a great rest of your day for everyone. Bye.
Take care, and I'll see you all on the internet.
Yeah. Bye-bye.